Welcome to our 10-minute table talk, everyone. I am Pastor Holman, and thank you so very much for joining us. Today, I want to talk to you from 1 Samuel 17 and verse 17. And here's what it reads. Then Jesse said to his son David, "Take now for your brothers an ephah and a dried up grain and these 10 loaves, and run to your brothers at the camp." But just for a moment, I want to talk to you from a subject of mastering the little things. There are far too many of us, when we're talking about God, are looking for the grandiose things to happen. We're thinking about in Exodus 14, when Moses was at the Red Sea with Pharaoh's army behind him and mountains on the side of him, and God parted the Red Sea from east to west, and all of the children of Israel walked across on dry land. We're even talking about looking at things like Exodus 17, when water came out of the rock, or 2 Kings chapter 6, when Elijah made the floating axe head come to the top of the water. When many of us are talking about God speaking to us, many of us are looking for God to do big things. And in looking for the big things, hear me when I'm saying you miss the small things. And God more than often speaks through the small things of everyday life than he does the big things. In 1 Kings chapter number 17, this particular verse is not an exciting verse. It's not something that would catch your attention. But this particular verse is the setup that will cause David to spring forth on the landscape of the Bible. This particular verse is why we find David being a man after God's own heart. This particular verse is how David comes to be one of the greatest kings of all of Israel's history. In 1 Kings chapter number 17, we find that Israel is in a war with Gath. And Gath has sent forth this great, huge giant named Goliath. Goliath is 9 feet 6 inches tall, and he is standing across the valley of Gath, and he is tormenting the people of Israel. David hears this and comes to the camp. Jesse, David's father, tells him to do this. David, I need you to go take some sandwiches to your brothers who are at the camp of Gath. Now, you must remember, this is post 1 Kings chapter number 16, when the prophet has come in and anointed David as king. So David is going to be the future king of Israel. And here it is, in the presence of his father, David knew that he was going to be the king. But his father sends the future king on a very menial assignment to go and deliver bread to his brothers, something that is beneath a future king. I just need you, 1 Kings 17 and 17, through the mouth of Jesse, his father, go take these 10 loaves, these ephahs, we will call them hoe cakes in our day, and go and take them to your brother who are at the camp getting ready to go and fight against the Philistines. Future king of Israel, go take this bread, these 10 loaves, to your brothers. And because David, who knew that one day he would be king, did not count this assignment to be beneath him, he honored his father's word and took the sandwiches to his brothers. Watch this. Had he had not taken the sandwich to his brothers, he would have never saw Goliath on the other side of the valley. If he would have said, "Daddy, listen, I'm the king. You just heard the prophet, the horn of oil flowed on my head, not on any of my 8 brothers. This is beneath me. I don't need to be taking sandwiches to my brother. They need to be bringing me food, for I will be the next king of Israel." That's not what he said. David said, in God's kingdom, there is no job that is beneath me. And so he took these particular 10 loaves to his brothers who were at the camp getting ready to fight the Philistines. And had he not taken those loaves, he would have never encountered Goliath. Had he not encountered Goliath, one of the greatest stories that have ever been told in the Bible would not be there. So as he takes these loaves to his brothers who were warriors, getting ready to go and fight against the Philistines, he heard Goliath mocking the children of Israel. And in 1 Kings chapter number 17, verse number 32, then David said to Saul, "Let not any man's heart fail because of this man." Because David did the menial assignment of taking bread, he put himself in position to be used by God. And far too many of us want God to do the big stuff, but we won't be faithful with the little things that he's called for us to do. We want God to move mountains. We want God to answer every single prayer. We want God to do everything, but we are not willing to do anything. We take the position because of our titles, because of what we have achieved in life, that certain things are beneath us. Thank God King David did not have that attitude. And far too many of us have missed God's blessings because we've been looking for the Red Sea moments. We've been looking for the water out of the rock moments. We've been looking for the floating axe head moments, and we've missed the bread moments. You've missed the small things that God was telling you to be faithful in doing, the small things that will lead to greater blessings, but you can't get to the greater unless you master the small. When you become faithful in all areas of your life, not just the areas that put you in the limelight, but in the areas when you're all by yourself, those least moments. When you're found faithful in the least moments, God can give you greater moments. And so because David took these loaves to his brothers, he encountered Goliath. He tells King Saul, who is shaking in his boots, I'll go fight him. I'll go do the dirty work. I'll go do the dirty work of this man that is insulting the armies of Israel. Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that is coming against the armies of Israel? I will go fight him. Let not your heart be troubled, O king. David knew something about the God that was in him that even King Saul, the commander of the army, didn't believe himself. And so King David says, I'll go fight him. Saul says, okay, well, let me give you my armor. And King David says, you know what? I don't need any of that. He picked up a slingshot and 5 smooth stones. You guys all know the story. And as he comes running across the valley of Gath, he takes one of those slingshots and he hits Goliath dead in his head, and this 9'6" giant falls. But none of that would have been possible had he not obeyed his father's voice to do what was in his eyes trivial. Why would a king, a future king, be delivering bread? When you learn to master the small things and show yourself faithful in small things, God can provide you greater opportunity. If you can't be on time for the job that you're working, why would you assume that God will give you a promotion there? If you can't master the small things in life, why would God give you bigger things in life? If you cannot be faithful with $10, then why would God give you $100? We have to master the small things and allow God to do the big things. This story of David, this wonderful man to which the Bible says is a man after God's own heart, we would never see any of that had it not been for 1 Samuel 17, verse 17. Because he did the small things, he set himself up for greater glory. And as you're looking at your own life, as you're praying and asking God to do things that only God can do, the question that I believe God asks us in return is, are you doing what you can do? You want me to do that, to which I am bound by my word too, but are you doing the things that you need to do? Are you setting yourself up for God to bless you? Are you trying to center yourself in the middle of his will so that blessings can fall upon you? Yes, we are expecting God to do some great and wonderful things in our lives, but God is also expecting us to do some things. Be like David. When you serve, there is nothing beneath you. There's nothing beneath you. Taking out trash is not beneath you. Doing things that your title assignment does not dictate is not beneath you. That's not for those people to do. It's for all of us to do. And when you master the small things in life, when you pay attention to the small details, God sets you up for greater glory. In the book of Song of Solomon, the Bible declares that it is the small foxes that destroy the vine. It's not the big stuff in life that gets us messed up. It's those little things in life that we do not pay attention to that trip us up. Be faithful in the small things, and God will give you greater things. Be blessed. May God continue to keep you in all of his ways. We'll see you next week.